Well, there's growing outrage after yet another video emerges showing police getting attacked by migrants.
In recent times, people have been worried about migrant gangs getting involved in crimes. This has raised big concerns about how safe communities are, especially with the growing clashes between migrants and law enforcement. But the clashes have hit the peak as migrant gangs were caught on camera attacking NYPD officers.
Reprehensible. Cowards.
Frustrations are high at the NYPD after two of their own were violently attacked near Times Square this past Saturday.
NYPD facing gang violence. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office recently released police body camera footage that captured the harrowing assault, providing a chilling glimpse into the events leading up to the attack. In the video, you'd see officers approaching a group of individuals, lightly asking them to move off the sidewalk. Little did they know that this simple request would escalate into a violent confrontation that would shock the nation. As tensions rise, an officer approaches a man named Yohenry Brito, who is seen wearing a yellow jacket. The officer attempts to physically move Brito from the center of the sidewalk to against the facade of a nearby building. But instead of complying, Brito pushes the officer's hands out of the way, refusing to be moved. And that's when chaos erupts. The situation quickly spirals out of control as punches and kicks are thrown, turning Times Square into a battleground. The two NYPD officers find themselves outnumbered and overwhelmed by the sheer aggression of the migrant gang members. In the aftermath of this shocking attack, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office wasted no time in taking action. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg announced that a total of 7 individuals have been indicted in connection with the assault. These indictments include Yohenry Brito, who had previously been charged and is currently held on charges of assault, obstruction, and evidence tampering. But Brito is not alone. 4 others, Darwin Andres Gomez Isquiel, Wilson Juarez, Kelvin Arocha, and Yorman Reveron, who were arrested last week, have also been indicted. They now face charges of assault and obstructing governmental administration. Additionally, authorities have released photos of 2 other individuals they are actively seeking in connection to the January 27th attack. One of the men is seen wearing a red hoodie with a white hat, standing at 5 and 9. The other man is wearing a black puffer jacket and red hat, approximately 5 to 7 inches in height. Their identities remain unknown until their arraignment. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg expressed his outrage and condemnation of the assault on NYPD officers in Times Square. He stated, "We have absolutely no tolerance for this despicable behavior. Our joint investigation with the NYPD has helped us determine the alleged roles of new individuals involved, including some who are charged with having committed the most violent conduct and have not yet been apprehended. However, the indictments alone do not guarantee justice." Patrick Hendry, the president of the Police Benevolent Association, emphasized that these individuals must show up in a Manhattan courtroom to face the consequences of their actions. As the investigation unfolds, it becomes clear that the incident is more complex than it may seem. Prosecutors have been meticulously reviewing the police body camera footage to determine the level of involvement of each individual. Some may have had minimal participation, while others are more culpable for the violence that unfolded in Times Square that day. Furthermore, questions arise about what triggered the assault. Police have suggested that most, if not all, of the suspects were in Times Square for pickpocketing or other criminal activities. The lieutenant who attempted to disperse the group, along with his fellow officer, became the targets of punches and kicks. In response to this shocking incident, Mayor Eric Adams has called for renewed cooperation between the city and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He believes that repeat offenders who can be deported should face the consequences of their actions. It is worth noting that almost all of the suspects have lived in a city-run shelter for migrants, claiming to be seeking asylum at some point. Police have been investigating these individuals for potential connections to larger crime trends. The city's rhetoric about migrants has shifted as resources are stretched by the arrival of nearly 200,000 migrants sent from the southern border. The indictments announced by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg were met with skepticism by Patrick Hendry, the president of the Police Benevolent Association. Hendry emphasized that these indictments mean nothing unless the individuals show up in a Manhattan courtroom to face justice. Alvin Bragg's handling of the case has come under intense scrutiny, with Republicans in the state Senate calling for his removal from office. Critics argue that Bragg's approach to the case has been inadequate and fails to address the severity of the assault on NYPD officers. However, sources familiar with the investigation shed light on the complexity of the case. Prosecutors have been meticulously reviewing the police body camera footage to determine the level of involvement of each individual. It is crucial to ensure that those who played a more significant significant role in the violence face appropriate charges, while those with minimal involvement are not unfairly targeted. The incident has also sparked a shift in the city's rhetoric about migrants. As resources are stretched thin by the arrival of nearly 200,000 migrants from the southern border, authorities have been looking into potential connections between some of the suspects in larger crime trends. This raises questions about the impact of the influx of migrants on the city's safety and the need for comprehensive measures to address the issue. The investigation into the attack is far from straightforward. Prosecutors have been meticulously reviewing the police body camera footage to determine the level of involvement of each individual. It is crucial to ensure that justice is served, holding accountable those who played a more significant role in the violence, while also considering the actions of those with minimal involvement. Police have suggested that most, if not all, of the suspects were in Times Square for pickpocketing or other criminal activities. This raises questions about the motives behind the attack and whether it was a targeted assault on the NYPD officers or a result of the suspects' criminal endeavors clashing with law enforcement. Mayor Eric Adams has expressed his desire for renewed cooperation between the city and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to address the issue of repeat offenders who can be deported. By working together, the two agencies can more effectively investigate incidents like the attack on NYPD officers in Times Square. However, the call for cooperation with ICE has sparked a debate about the balance between public safety and protecting the rights of migrants seeking asylum. The city finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with the challenges posed by the growing number of migrants and the need to maintain law and order. Almost all of the suspects in the attack have lived in a city-run shelter for migrants at some point, claiming to be seeking asylum. This raises concerns about the screening process and the potential for criminal elements to exploit the system. Authorities are now looking into whether there are connections between the suspects and larger crime trends. As the investigation progresses, additional questions arise about what exactly touched off the assault. Police have suggested that the lieutenant who attempted to disperse the group, along with his fellow officer, was met with punches and kicks. It remains to be determined what triggered such a violent response from the suspects. The complexity of the investigation is further highlighted by the fact that several individuals seen on the police body camera footage may have had minimal involvement in the assault. Sorting out the roles and levels of culpability of each person captured on video is a challenging task for prosecutors. Mayor Eric's call for collaboration has sparked a debate about striking the right balance between public safety and protecting the rights of migrants seeking asylum. The city finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with the challenges posed by the growing number of migrants and the need to maintain law and order. Sending migrants back is definitely not an option, not for a people who risked everything to be in the United States.
New video shows two large SUVs dropping off dozens of illegal migrants at the border in Jacumba, California. The group appearing to be mostly adult males, made up of people from China, Turkey, Brazil, and India.
Migrants risk everything. For many migrants, the journey, fueled by desperation and hope, begins with an attempt to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. However, what awaits them is a treacherous path fraught with peril. Armed bandits lurk in the shadows, targeting vulnerable migrants and subjecting them to unimaginable horrors. These ruthless criminals, motivated by greed, rob migrants at gunpoint, stripping them of their belongings and leaving them in a state of fear and vulnerability. The incident captured in this shocking footage highlights the urgent need for increased security measures to protect both migrants and the public. While Border Patrol agents work tirelessly to maintain order and security, the vastness of the border and the determination of migrants make it a daunting task. The risks faced by migrants are not limited to criminal elements alone. The harsh terrain and unpredictable weather conditions pose significant threats to their safety. The rugged landscapes, scorching heat, and freezing cold temperatures push migrants to their physical limits. Many are ill-prepared for the harsh realities they encounter, leading to exhaustion, dehydration, and even death. The unforgiving desert becomes a graveyard for those who dare to cross. In their pursuit of a better life, migrants often find themselves at the mercy of ruthless Mexican cartels. These criminal organizations exploit their vulnerability, subjecting them to violence, extortion, and human trafficking. The journey becomes a nightmare as migrants navigate through a web of danger and exploitation. The lack of resources further compounds the risks faced by migrants. With limited access to food, water, and medical assistance, they are left to fend for themselves in unfamiliar and hostile hostile environments. The dire conditions they endure only serve to highlight the desperation that drives them to take such risks. Even if migrants successfully cross the border, their challenges are far from over. Overcrowded detention centers become their temporary homes, where they face overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and a lack of basic necessities. The closure of migrant welcome centers, such as the one in San Diego, has left newly arrived migrants disoriented and without access to the support they desperately need. The dangers faced by migrants at the border are a stark reminder of the risks they are willing to take in search of safety and a better life. It is a testament to the dire circumstances they face in their home countries, where violence, poverty, and political instability leave them with no choice but to embark on this perilous journey. The San Diego Migrant Welcome Center, once a beacon of hope for newly arrived migrants, has now closed its doors. This closure has left migrants disoriented and without access to basic necessities, further exacerbating the challenges they face. The closure of the center has sparked intense debates about how to handle the increasing number of migrants and who should bear the financial burden. Some argue that the responsibility lies with the government, while others believe that local communities and nonprofit organizations should step up to provide support. The closure has ignited passionate discussions about the role of the government in addressing the needs of migrants. Critics argue that the government's response has been inadequate, leaving newly arrived migrants in a state of confusion and vulnerability. Government officials defend the closure, citing limited resources and the need to prioritize other pressing issues. They argue that the responsibility should be shared among various stakeholders, including the federal government, state authorities, and local communities. Meanwhile, migrants who have recently arrived find themselves in a state of limbo. Without the support of the San Diego Migrant Welcome Center, they struggle to navigate the complex immigration system and access basic necessities such as food, shelter, and medical care. In the absence of government support, volunteers and nonprofit organizations have stepped in to provide aid and support to migrants. These dedicated individuals work tirelessly to fill the gaps left by the closure of the San Diego Migrant Welcome Center, offering food, clothing, legal assistance, and a sense of hope to those in need. However, the reliance on volunteers and nonprofit organizations is not a sustainable solution. Many argue that the government should take a more active role in providing comprehensive support to migrants, ensuring their safety and well-being. As the debates rage on, finding a solution that balances the needs of migrants with the resources available remains a complex challenge. The closure of the San Diego Migrant Welcome Center serves as a stark reminder of the strain on resources and the urgent need for a comprehensive and compassionate approach to address the influx of migrants. The U.S.-Mexico border has witnessed an unprecedented surge in migrant encounters, reaching record-breaking levels in recent years. This surge has captured the attention of the world and sparked intense debates about immigration policies and border security. One contributing factor to this surge is the formation of migrant caravans. These large groups of migrants, often fleeing violence, poverty, and political instability in their home countries, band together for safety and support as they embark on their journey to the United States. Economic factors also play a significant role. Many migrants are driven by the hope of finding better job opportunities and economic stability in the United States. The promise of a higher standard of living and the ability to provide for their families motivates them to take the risks associated with crossing the border. Political instability in certain regions, such as Venezuela, has forced many to flee their homes in search of safety and a chance at a better life. The dire circumstances they face in their home countries push them to undertake the dangerous journey to the United States. Changes in U.S. immigration policies have also contributed to the surge. Shifts in political landscapes and policy decisions have created a sense of urgency among migrants, leading them to believe that now is the time to attempt their journey to the United States. The surge in migrant encounters involves not only single adults, but also families and unaccompanied minors. These vulnerable groups face unique challenges and risks as they navigate the complex immigration system and seek protection and stability in the United States. Border Patrol agents work tirelessly to manage the influx of migrants, but the sheer number of encounters has put a strain on resources. The need for additional personnel, facilities, and equipment is evident as they strive to maintain order and security along the border. Overcrowded detention centers become temporary homes for many migrants, where they await processing and determination of their immigration status. The strain on these facilities highlights the urgent need for comprehensive immigration reform and improved infrastructure to handle the increasing number of arrivals. The record-breaking number of migrant encounters has sparked protests and debates across the United States. Views on immigration policies and border security vary widely, with some advocating for stricter measures and others calling for more compassionate and inclusive approaches. Public dissatisfaction with the government's handling of the border border crisis is widespread. Many U.S. adults believe that the government is doing a poor job dealing with the large number of migrants, viewing the situation as a crisis or major problem for the United States. Amidst the challenges and debates, various organizations and volunteers provide aid and support to migrants. These dedicated individuals offer food, shelter, medical care, and legal assistance, striving to alleviate the hardships faced by migrants during their journey. It is important to note that seeking asylum is a legal right protected by international law. Many migrants crossing the border are fleeing persecution, violence, and human rights abuses in their home countries, seeking safety and protection in the United States. As the record-breaking number of migrant encounters continues, finding a balance between border security and compassion remains a complex challenge. But will the American government be able to work together to get it right?
One day after Senate Republicans blocked a border security bill, there's word that the White House is preparing for a Plan B.
U.S. migrant gang struggle. The U.S.-Mexico border has always been a source of controversy and complicated issues. Over the years, it's been a place where tensions run high, conflicts arise, and people move back and forth. To understand what's going on there now, it's important to look at its history and how it shaped the challenges we face today. The geographical proximity of Mexico to the United States, coupled with the demand for illegal drugs in the American market, has created a lucrative opportunity for drug cartels and criminal organizations. These gangs exploit the porous nature of the border, utilizing sophisticated smuggling techniques to transport drugs across the border undetected. One of the most significant drugs trafficked across the border is cocaine. Mexico serves as a key transit point for cocaine produced in South America, with cartels controlling the transportation and distribution networks. The drug is often smuggled through hidden compartments in vehicles, tunnels, or even by human couriers known as mules. The profits generated from the cocaine trade have allowed cartels to amass vast wealth and power, leading to increased violence and corruption. The impact of drug trafficking extends beyond the immediate health and social consequences. The drug trade has fueled violence and instability in Mexico as cartels fight for control of lucrative smuggling routes and territories. This violence has had a devastating impact on Mexican communities, leading to thousands of deaths and displacements. Another major drug trafficked across the border is methamphetamine, commonly known as meth. Mexico has become a significant producer and exporter of methamphetamine, supplying the American market with a highly addictive and dangerous drug. The production of meth involves the use of toxic chemicals, leading to environmental contamination and health risks for both producers and consumers. The availability of meth in the United States has contributed to a sharp increase in addiction rates and devastating consequences for individuals and communities. The opioid crisis in the United States has also been fueled in part by the trafficking of prescription painkillers and illicit opioids across the border. Mexican drug cartels have capitalized on the demand for opioids, flooding American communities with drugs such as fentanyl and heroin. The availability of these substances has contributed to a sharp increase in overdose deaths and addiction rates in the United States, devastating families and communities across the nation. Efforts to combat drug trafficking have involved cooperation between U.S. and Mexican law enforcement agencies. The Merida Initiative, launched in 2007, aimed to provide support and resources to Mexico in its fight against drug cartels. This initiative has included training programs, intelligence sharing, and equipment assistance. However, the challenges posed by drug trafficking remain complex and difficult to overcome. The drug cartel's influence and power continue to pose a significant threat to both the United States and Mexico. Their activities not only fuel violence and corruption, but also contribute to the destabilization of communities and the erosion of public trust in institutions. It all started in the early 19th century when Mexico gained independence from Spain. The newly formed Mexican government faced numerous challenges in establishing control over its vast territory, including the northern regions that would later become part of the United States. However, in 1848, the Mexican-American War came to an end with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This treaty ceded a significant portion of Mexican territory to the United States, including present-day California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. The territorial loss had a profound impact on Mexico. Not only did it result in a significant reduction in size, but it also led to the displacement of many Mexican citizens who suddenly found themselves living in a foreign country. The border between the United States and Mexico became a physical and symbolic divide, separating families and communities. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the border region experienced a surge in economic activity. The discovery of valuable resources such as gold, silver, and oil attracted attracted people from both sides of the border as they sought employment and better opportunities. The border became a fluid and porous boundary, with people freely crossing back and forth in search of work. This period saw a significant level of integration and movement between the two countries. However, the situation changed dramatically in the 1920s with the implementation of stricter immigration policies in the United States. The Immigration Act of 1924, also known as the Johnson-Reed Act, imposed quotas on immigration from certain countries, including Mexico. This marked the beginning of a more restrictive approach to immigration, particularly from Mexico, which had previously seen relatively open borders. The Great Depression of the 1930s further exacerbated the challenges faced by the border region. Economic hardships and high unemployment rates in the United States led to increased hostility towards Mexican immigrants, who were blamed for taking jobs away from American citizens. This sentiment culminated in the forced repatriation of hundreds of thousands of Mexican and Mexican-American individuals, many of whom were U.S. citizens, to Mexico. Families were torn apart and communities were shattered. The border continued to be a site of tension and conflict throughout the 20th century. The rise of drug cartels and organized crime in Mexico, coupled with the demand for illegal drugs in the United States, created a lucrative market for drug trafficking. The border became a battleground for law enforcement agencies as they struggled to combat the flow of drugs and the violence associated with the drug trade. The geographical proximity of Mexico to the United States, coupled with the demand for illegal drugs in the American market, has created a lucrative opportunity for drug cartels and criminal organizations. One of the most significant drugs trafficked across the border is cocaine. Mexico serves as a key transit point for cocaine produced in South America, with cartels controlling the transportation and distribution networks. The drug is often smuggled through hidden compartments in vehicles, tunnels, or even by human couriers known as mules. The profits generated from the cocaine trade have allowed cartels to amass vast wealth and power, leading to increased violence and corruption. Another major drug trafficked across the border is methamphetamine, commonly known as meth. Mexico has become a significant producer and exporter of methamphetamine, supplying the American market with a highly addictive and dangerous drug. The production of meth involves the use of toxic chemicals, leading to environmental contamination and health risks for both producers and consumers. The impact of drug trafficking extends beyond the immediate health and social consequences. The drug trade has fueled violence and instability in Mexico as cartels fight for control of lucrative smuggling routes and territories. This violence has had a devastating impact on Mexican communities, leading to thousands of deaths and displacements. Efforts to combat drug trafficking have involved cooperation between U.S. and Mexican law enforcement agencies. The Merida Initiative, launched in 2007, aimed to provide support and resources to Mexico in its fight against drug cartels. This initiative has included training programs, intelligence sharing, and equipment assistance. However, the challenges posed by drug trafficking remain complex and difficult to overcome. The U.S.-Mexico border is not only a hotspot for drug trafficking, but also for human smuggling, to help them cross the border illegally. The demand for human smuggling services is driven by factors such as economic opportunities, family reunification, and the pursuit of safety and security. The issue of human smuggling has become more complex in recent years due to the increased enforcement measures along the border. The construction of physical barriers and the presence of Border Patrol agents have pushed migrants to seek alternative and more dangerous routes. The impact of drug cartels on the border crisis cannot be ignored, as they exploit the porous nature of the border to traffic drugs and fuel violence. Additionally, the issue of human smuggling poses risks and challenges, with migrants facing dangerous journeys and border communities grappling with strained resources. Addressing the border crisis requires comprehensive approaches that address the root causes of migration, promote cooperation between countries, and ensure the rights and dignity of individuals. By working together, the United States and Mexico can strive to create a more secure, prosperous, and cooperative border region. If you enjoyed this video, click on the video showing on your screen to enjoy more.